Psalm 34:18. The Lord is close to the brokenhearted and saves those who are crushed in spirit. Maybe this morning you are not asking God for success. You are not asking God for more money. You are not even asking God to solve every problem in your life. Deep down, your heart is asking for something much simpler, something much more personal, something you may not have felt for a very long time. Maybe lately, your soul has been quietly whispering, Jesus, I just want to feel okay again. Because sometimes the deepest pain is not loud. It does not always look dramatic. Sometimes you continue smiling, continue working, continue showing up every day, while secretly carrying a heaviness nobody else fully sees. And maybe you are tired of feeling this way, tired of pretending, tired of surviving, tired of carrying emotions you do not even know how to explain anymore. So before this day fully begins, stay with this prayer until the very end, and let Jesus gently meet you in the place where your heart hurts the most today. Maybe the hardest thing about emotional pain is that people cannot always see it. They see you getting through the day. They see you answering messages. They see you handling responsibilities. They see the version of you that keeps moving forward. But they do not see the battle happening underneath it all. They do not see the exhaustion, the heaviness, the silent sadness that sometimes follows you into the morning before the day has even begun. Maybe lately you have not felt like yourself. Not completely. Not the version of yourself you remember. Not the version that laughed more easily. Not the version that felt lighter inside. Somewhere along the way, life became heavier. And maybe you cannot even point to one single reason why. Maybe it was disappointment. Maybe it was loss. Maybe it was stress that slowly built up over time. Maybe it was carrying too much for too long. Or maybe you are simply tired. Tired in a way sleep does not fix. Tired in a way vacations do not fix. Tired in a way that reaches deep into the soul. And that kind of exhaustion is difficult to explain because people often understand physical pain, but emotional pain hides in silence. It hides behind normal conversations, behind polite smiles, behind the words, I'm fine, even when the heart feels anything but fine. Maybe recently you have found yourself missing the old version of you, the version that felt hopeful, the version that felt emotionally alive, the version that did not carry this constant heaviness everywhere. And maybe there have been quiet moments where you asked yourself, what happened to me? Not because you are broken, not because you have failed, but because something inside you feels different now. And maybe, for a long time, you have been trying to fix it on your own, trying to think your way out of it, trying to stay strong enough to overcome it, trying to convince yourself that tomorrow will magically feel different. But the heaviness keeps returning, the exhaustion keeps returning, the sadness keeps returning, and little by little, the heart begins losing confidence that things can actually get better. Maybe that is why these words matter today, because Jesus is not only close to people who have everything together, He is especially close to hearts that feel weary. He is especially close to people who are struggling quietly. He is especially close to souls that no longer know what to do with the pain they are carrying. And maybe this morning, He is closer than you realize, not waiting for you to become stronger, not waiting for you to become perfect, not waiting for you to figure everything out, just meeting you exactly where you are, in the exhaustion, in the sadness, in the confusion, in the place where your heart keeps whispering, Jesus, I just want to feel okay again. Maybe lately you have become good at hiding what you feel, good at changing the subject when people ask how you are doing, good at giving short answers, good at carrying pain quietly, because after a while, you stop expecting people to understand, not because they do not care, but because some feelings are difficult to put into words. How do you explain a heaviness you cannot fully describe? How do you explain feeling exhausted when nothing dramatic happened? How do you explain a sadness that appears even during moments that should feel happy? Maybe that is why your heart has felt so lonely lately. Not because you are physically alone, but because nobody fully sees the battle happening inside your soul. And maybe there have been moments where you sat quietly by yourself, staring out a window, driving alone, lying awake at night, and asking questions you never say out loud. Questions like, will I ever feel like myself again? Will this heaviness ever leave? Will life always feel this exhausting? Because sometimes when emotional pain stays long enough, the future begins to feel blurry. Hope becomes harder to hold, joy feels distant, and the heart slowly forgets what peace feels like. Maybe there was a time when you looked forward to things, a time when your heart felt lighter, a time when getting out of bed did not feel like such an emotional effort. But now, some days simply feel harder than they should, not because you are weak, not because your faith is gone, but because carrying invisible pain for too long changes a person. It drains energy, it steals motivation, it makes even simple tasks feel emotionally heavy. And maybe lately, your soul has been surviving more than living, just trying to make it through the day, just trying to keep going, just trying to hold everything together, while quietly wondering how much longer you can carry all this by yourself. Maybe that is why this morning feels so important, because before anything changes around you, Jesus wants to begin healing something inside you. Not your schedule, not your circumstances, your heart. The tired places, the wounded places, the places that have been carrying too much for too long. Because Jesus never ignores hidden pain. He never overlooks silent tears. He never turns away from exhausted souls. And maybe that is what your heart needs to hear today. You are not invisible to Him. Not your sadness, not your confusion, not your exhaustion, not even the emotions you cannot explain. He sees every part of it, every burden, every disappointment, every moment where you felt like giving up, every moment where you smiled while secretly hurting inside. He sees it all, and even now, His love is still reaching toward this weary heart. Not with judgment, not with disappointment, but with compassion, because Jesus understands pain. He understands grief. He understands what it feels like to carry sorrow, and that is why He knows exactly how to meet you in this moment. Maybe not with all the answers, maybe not with instant solutions, but with His presence. And sometimes the presence of Jesus becomes the first step back toward healing, because healing does not always begin when circumstances change. Sometimes healing begins when the heart finally realizes, I don't have to carry this alone anymore. And maybe, for the first time in a very long while, that truth is beginning to reach your heart today. Maybe the reason you are here this morning, listening to this prayer, is because your soul has become tired of pretending, tired of hiding, tired of carrying emotions that nobody else fully understands. And maybe today, before the responsibilities begin, before the noise of the day arrives, Jesus simply wants this weary heart to rest for a moment, to breathe again, to feel safe again, to remember that even though life feels heavy right now, you are still being held, you are still being loved. And maybe, after carrying this heaviness for so long, the hardest part is not even the sadness anymore. The hardest part is becoming used to it, used to waking up tired, used to feeling emotionally drained, used to pretending everything is okay, used to carrying a weight inside your heart that nobody else fully understands, because pain that stays long enough starts feeling normal. And maybe lately, that is what has happened. You have become so used to surviving that you barely remember what it feels like to truly rest. Not physical rest, soul rest, the kind of rest where your mind becomes quiet, the kind of rest where your heart no longer feels like it is carrying the world alone, the kind of rest Jesus promised weary people. And maybe that is exactly what your soul has been longing for. Not perfection, not a perfect life, not a life without problems, just one moment where your heart can finally exhale, one moment where the pressure stops, one moment where the heaviness does not feel so overwhelming, because sometimes the reason a person feels exhausted is not because life is impossible, it is because they have been carrying too much for too long without letting anyone help them. Maybe you have been carrying disappointment, disappointment from prayers that seemed unanswered, disappointment from people who let you down, disappointment from dreams that did not unfold the way you hoped. And maybe every disappointment left a small weight inside your heart, one burden, then another, until eventually the soul became tired without even realizing why. Maybe lately you have been asking yourself questions that have no easy answers. Why do I feel this way? Why can't I just move on? Why do I still feel heavy inside? Why do I miss the person I used to be? And perhaps the reason those questions hurt so much is because deep down you genuinely want healing, you genuinely want peace, you genuinely want to feel alive again. And maybe that desire itself is proof that your story is not over, because hopeless hearts stop searching, but your heart is still searching, still praying, still listening, still hoping. Even if only a small part of you believes things can get better, that small part matters, because Jesus can do a lot with even a small spark of hope. Maybe that is why he brought you here today, not to shame you for feeling tired, not to criticize you for struggling, but to remind you that your pain has not gone unnoticed. Every tear, every sleepless night, every moment you sat alone with thoughts too heavy to explain, Jesus saw all of it, and he stayed. He did not leave when the sadness came. He did not walk away when your faith felt weak. He did not abandon you when your heart felt numb. He stayed, quietly, faithfully, lovingly. Maybe there were moments when you felt distant from God, moments when prayers felt difficult, moments when worship felt harder than it used to, moments when you wondered if heaven could still hear your voice. But even in those moments, Jesus was closer than you realized, because his presence is not dependent on how strong you feel. His love is not dependent on how perfect your faith feels. His compassion is not dependent on how well you are holding everything together. He loves weary hearts too. He loves struggling hearts too. He loves hearts that feel lost. He loves hearts that feel broken. And maybe that is exactly why he is speaking to your soul right now. Not because you have everything figured out, but because you do not. Not because you are strong, but because you are tired. Not because you have all the answers, but because you need him. And maybe for the first time in a long time, your heart is beginning to realize something beautiful. You do not have to earn his love. You do not have to earn his presence. You do not have to earn his peace. It is already being offered to you. Even now, right here, in the middle of your exhaustion, in the middle of your sadness, in the middle of your questions, because Jesus is not waiting on the other side of your healing. He is walking with you through it, moment by moment, breath by breath. And maybe the reason your soul feels a little softer right now is because part of your heart is finally letting go. Not all at once, not perfectly, but little by little. The pressure, the disappointment, the sadness, the burden of trying to carry everything alone. Maybe healing begins there, not in having every answer, but in finally placing the weight into the hands of Jesus. And maybe for the first time in a very long while, your heart is beginning to believe that feeling okay again is actually possible. And maybe, right now, something inside your heart already feels a little different. Not because every problem disappeared, not because every question suddenly has an answer, but because for the first time in a long while, your soul has stopped running, stopped pretending, stopped carrying everything alone. And maybe that is where healing truly begins. Not when life becomes perfect, but when a weary heart finally finds a safe place to rest, because maybe for too long, you have been trying to survive on your own strength, trying to push through the sadness, trying to push through the disappointment, trying to push through the exhaustion, hoping that if you stayed strong long enough, the pain would eventually disappear. But some wounds cannot be healed by simply ignoring them. Some burdens cannot be carried forever, and some hearts become tired because they were never meant to carry so much alone. Maybe that is why your soul feels emotional right now, because deep down you know how exhausted you have become. You know how much energy it takes to keep smiling when your heart feels heavy. You know how much effort it takes to keep moving when your spirit feels tired. You know how many silent battles you have fought without anyone fully understanding. And through all of it, Jesus has been there, not far away, not disappointed, not waiting for you to become someone else. He has been there, in every tear, every lonely night, every fearful thought, every moment where you felt like giving up. He saw it all, and he stayed. Maybe that is what your heart needs to remember today. You survived things you thought would break you. You walked through seasons you never thought you could endure. You kept going when your soul felt exhausted. And even when you felt weak, Jesus was still carrying you. There were days when you thought you had no strength left, yet somehow, you made it through. There were nights when the pain felt overwhelming, yet somehow, morning still came. There were moments when you felt completely lost, yet somehow, God never stopped guiding you forward. And maybe the reason you are here listening to this prayer today is because your story is not finished. The pain is not the end of your story. The sadness is not the end of your story. The exhaustion is not the end of your story. Because Jesus is still writing chapters you cannot see yet. Chapters filled with healing. Chapters filled with peace. Chapters filled with joy that this tired heart cannot imagine right now. Maybe not tomorrow. Maybe not instantly, but slowly, faithfully, beautifully, the way only God can do. And maybe for the first time in a very long while, your soul is beginning to believe that again, that life will not always feel this heavy, that your heart will not always feel this tired, that your spirit will not always feel this burdened. Hope is possible. Peace is possible. Not because of your strength, but because of the one holding you together. Maybe there are still questions you cannot answer. Maybe there are still wounds that need time. Maybe there are still burdens you are learning to release. And that is okay, because healing is often a journey taken one prayer at a time, one breath at a time, one peaceful morning at a time. And maybe today, you do not need to have everything figured out. Your only job is to rest, to let Jesus carry what you cannot, to trust him with what hurts, to trust him with what confuses you, to trust him with what feels too heavy to carry anymore. Because the same Jesus who sees your pain also sees your future. The same Jesus who knows your tears also knows your healing. The same Jesus who understands your exhaustion also understands exactly how to restore your heart again. And maybe right now, he is already doing that, quietly, gently, patiently, like sunlight warming a cold room, like calmness settling over troubled thoughts, like hope returning to a weary soul. Maybe that is why your heart feels softer now, because the burden is becoming lighter, not because you are carrying it better, but because Jesus is carrying it with you. And maybe that changes everything. Because a heart that knows it is not alone can finally begin to heal. A soul that knows it is loved can finally begin to rest. A weary spirit that knows Jesus is near can finally begin to hope again. So before this prayer ends, take one slow breath. Let your shoulders relax. Let your heart rest. Let your thoughts grow quiet for a moment. And remember this: you are not broken beyond healing. You are not forgotten. You are not abandoned. You are not alone. Jesus is still with you. Jesus is still holding you. Jesus is still restoring you, even now. Jesus, today I bring you every burden living inside my heart. Every disappointment, every fear, every sadness, every hidden wound, every tear nobody else has seen. Lord, I am tired of carrying this pain alone. I am tired of pretending I am okay when my soul feels exhausted. I am tired of trying to hold everything together by myself. Please heal this weary heart. Heal the places inside me that still hurt. Heal the memories that still bring pain. Heal the disappointments I still carry. Heal the exhaustion living deep inside my soul. Replace my heaviness with peace. Replace my sadness with hope. Replace my fear with trust. Replace my exhaustion with strength. Help me feel your presence today. Help me remember that you are near. Help me believe that better days are still ahead. And when I feel weak, remind me that you are strong. When I feel lost, remind me that you are guiding me. When I feel tired, remind me that you are carrying me. Jesus, I just want to feel okay again. And today I place that desire completely into your loving hands. Thank you for never leaving me. Thank you for staying beside me. Thank you for loving me through every season. And thank you for the healing that is already beginning inside my heart. In Jesus' name, Amen.